The world at that time breathed ice and wind. Cycles of cold and warmth followed one another, with glaciers advancing and retreating over millennia. In Africa, rains were erratic. The savanna expanded and contracted like the planet's giant lungs. Swamps turned to dust, then back to green. Within that unpredictable rhythm, natural selection etched a single law onto all living beings. Adapt or disappear. East Africa was the meeting point of monsoons and ancient rivers. Volcanic soil nourished the grasslands, where herds of antelope, buffalo, and ancient elephants roamed, hunted by lions, cheetahs, and hyenas. Though seemingly harsh, this land became a forge for intelligence. The one who could read footprints, smell the wind, and predict migration paths, that one survived. Amid this scene, a small creature stood upright. No claws, no thick fur, but with a different gaze. And in that gaze, for the first time, nature looked back at itself. Homo sapiens, modern humans, were born. From upright ancestors, pelvises evolved to birth large-headed children. Hands became more dexterous. Brains larger. Memory, imagination, and cooperation emerged. They no longer had sloping foreheads or animal stares. Human faces now expressed emotions, voiced the unspoken. A species that could reflect, dream, and worry had arrived. Their bodies were not the strongest, but they were the best endurance runners. Under a punishing sun, they chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Heels, ligaments, sweat glands, every part was built to endure. They didn't need speed, they needed stamina. And stamina was the body's form of intelligence. But the greatest evolution was not in muscle, but in mind. Consciousness arose from need, remembering the rainy season, predicting animal paths, sharing food fairly. Gradually, humans began thinking not just of today, they imagined tomorrow. They pondered rules, loss, and souls. The mind awakened, and with it came symbols. Language followed. At first, gestures and glances, then cries, tones, and rhythms. One sound to warn of danger, a string of sounds to tell a story. Language wasn't born of art, but of survival. Yet it transformed survival into culture. By the night fire, they recounted hunts, rivers, and memories of the day. Memory became story. Story became knowledge. Knowledge became the legacy of collective memory. Tools evolved with thought. Stones were shaped in the Levallois pattern, planned, flaked, and angled with precision. Thus, early technology was born. Then came fire. Cooking, smoking, drying, preserving. Thanks to fire, energy once spent in digestion was redirected to fuel the brain. Shorter guts, bigger brains. The biological equation of intelligence. Prehistoric humans ate everything. Meat, marrow, fish, tubers, honey, wild fruits. They foraged in the rainy season and hunted in the dry. They chased tirelessly, ambushed strategically, read tracks, listened to birds, smelled the wind. Every footprint was data, every scent a piece of information. Nature became their textbook. But they didn't just learn to survive, they learned to understand. Nature was full of enemies. Lions, hyenas, leopards. Every shadow in the night had glowing eyes. But humans knew how to light fires, keep watch, and coordinate. Weak in strength, they were powerful in unity. When predators hovered over carcasses, they waited for the right moment, shouted to drive them off, and claimed the leftover marrow. In that world, intelligence meant sharing with death itself. Their enemies weren't just beasts. Danger lay in water and air, parasites, disease. Fire repelled mosquitoes. Smoke preserved food. Bitter leaves became medicine. Biology turned into an invisible battlefield, where the mind was the only antibiotic. From small bands, humans began to form laws. Food was shared equally. The elderly and children were prioritized. Fairness became the foundation of survival. Each had a role: hunter, firekeeper, storyteller, herbalist. Conflicts were resolved with words, and punishment was exile, a death sentence in the wild. Civilization began at the boundary, then came art. Red earth was finely ground, smeared on skin to shield from sun, to mark, to tell stories. In caves, hands were pressed to walls, pigment blown into glowing halos. The first shapes, traces of imagination. The dead were buried with flowers, objects, colored soil. A vague belief in an afterlife was sown. Music echoed from drums, Claps, whistles, art and faith were born together. They taught their children with hands, eyes, and stories. Kids learned to shape stones, spark fire, recognize the smell of rain. One group met another, exchanged stones, food, and words. The first network of connections spread across the savannah. Beneath the sky, they looked up at the stars, memorized migration routes, learned to read the heavens. Those dots of light became maps, early astronomy born from tired eyes scanning the night. Nature tested them again. Droughts, floods, earthquakes. With each crisis, they adapted, created, evolved. With each survival, intelligence multiplied. Groups met, interbred, exchanged, creating rich genetic diversity. Diversity became strength, and then, one day, they saw the far horizon. There, the sun set over the sea. In their eyes, the fire of curiosity blazed. They didn't know what lay beyond, only that they had to go.